Anthropic just released their most powerful model yet. But the version that matters most people will never see it. Same underlying model, two very different versions. Here is why that split matters. Fable 5 is available to any developer through the standard API. Mythos 5 is only accessible through Project Glasswing, a separate vetting process. Same underlying model, two completely different access tiers. Think of it like a locksmith's toolkit. Today, every time a powerful AI model ships, developers are limited. They get the safe version, not the most capable one. The master bypass tools stay behind the counter, and that limitation exists for a reason. On June 9, 2026, Anthropic announced both models at once. Fable 5 is available to any developer. Mythos 5 is restricted, not because Anthropic can't ship it publicly, but because unrestricted access to its most powerful capabilities would be actively harmful. Same base model, two very different access levels. Coverage caught the tension immediately. Anthropic had published a safety warning about AI becoming too dangerous, and then released their most capable model yet, just days later. The official announcement explains the reasoning directly. Anthropic is not trying to hide capability from the public. They are acknowledging that some capabilities are powerful enough to require a different access model entirely, and the dual-track release is their answer. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what these models can actually do. Both models start from the same foundation. Fable 5 gets safety classifiers applied before it reaches developers. Mythos 5 goes through a different pipeline, with fewer restrictions but far fewer people who can access it. Let's start with the model you and I can actually use. Anthropic benchmarked Fable 5 against the best. According to the company, the model delivers top-tier performance in agentic coding and knowledge work, competing directly with GPT 5.5 and Gemini 3.1 Pro. Anthropic also says Mythos 5 matches Fable 5 on core capabilities, with the distinction being who gets access and under what conditions. Fable 5's vision is sharp enough to play Pokemon Fire Red from start to finish using only raw screenshots. No game-specific harness, just the model reading the screen. The official model documentation lists every active model with its context window, output limit, and the exact API identifier you use in code, like Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5. Pin to the model name you have tested, so your behavior stays stable in production. 1 million tokens in a single context window. That is roughly 750,000 words, more than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy held in one conversation. Getting started takes under 10 lines. Install the SDK, set your key, and create a client. The one detail to get right is the model ID. Copy the exact name from the docs, like Claude Fable 5, so you always know which version you are calling. The API call itself is clean and familiar. One thing worth knowing: in sensitive domains, Fable 5 may return a refusal or route to a more conservative model. Your code still gets a valid response, it is just handled more carefully than a standard request. The API release notes track every update. When a model version changes behavior or a new version ships, this is where you find out before your production system does. Worth bookmarking if you are building on top of this. Now for the more interesting story, Claude Mythos 5. Mythos 5 shares the same foundation as Fable 5. The difference is what remains enabled. Cybersecurity capabilities that are restricted in Fable 5 are active in Mythos 5, which is exactly why access requires vetting. Fable 5 handles most requests natively. In sensitive domains, it may refuse or fall back to a more conservative safety path. Mythos 5 has those restrictions removed, with full model capability available to vetted users. Access to Mythos 5 is not a premium tier you can buy. It is a trust tier you have to earn. Organizations apply, submit their use case, go through a review, and access is granted based on verified intent, not payment. Project Glasswing is the operational framework that makes the restricted release possible. The Glasswing page describes exactly who the program is designed for. Security research teams, vulnerability researchers, selected government partners. People whose job is understanding how attacks work so they can build better defenses. The core problem Glasswing is solving is an asymmetry. Attackers need one exploit to succeed. Defenders need to find every vulnerability. Giving defenders access to a model that can discover vulnerabilities at scale changes that equation. The Glasswing program is built around one argument. Let defenders access the most powerful tools first, under controlled conditions, before equivalent capability reaches bad actors. This is deliberate sequencing of access, not secrecy. The key claim is that Anthropic did not see a major safety regression from the added capability. Their evaluations measured misaligned behavior like deception and misuse cooperation, and Mythos 5 stayed comparable to previous Claude models. In other words, the model became more capable without becoming obviously less aligned in these tests. Let's talk about what Fable 5 actually does when it sees a sensitive request. Every request passes through a classifier. Coding, writing, and analysis go straight to Fable 5. Requests that touch high-risk domains are handled more conservatively. Depending on the request, it may return a refusal or be handled through a more conservative safety path. Biology is one of the domains that triggers additional safeguards. Anthropic's evaluations showed that Mythos models possess stronger biological reasoning capabilities than previous Claude models, including tasks involving viral property prediction. That's exactly why requests involving biological synthesis, chemical weapons, offensive cyber operations, or attempts to extract model weights are treated with greater caution. Fable 5 doesn't simply shut these topics down. Instead, it applies more conservative handling through its safety framework. Anthropic's responsible scaling policy outlines both the principles and the practical implementation. If you are building in any domain that touches these areas, this is required reading before you ship anything to users. The acceptable use policy is where Anthropic draws the hard lines. These are not vague guidelines, they are explicit prohibitions, and violating them is not just a model refusal. It can mean losing API access entirely. Fable 5 supports tool use out of the box. Here it is given a web search tool, then asks something it cannot answer from memory, so it searches, reads the results, and replies. The same pattern extends to file reads, test runners, and any tool you define. The tool use documentation walks through the full agentic pattern. How to define tools, handle multi-turn calls, and manage long-running tasks. This is the part of Fable 5 that most developers underuse in their first integration. Here's Fable 5 building a physics-based simulation of the solar system, accurate enough to predict a solar eclipse. It stays focused across millions of tokens in one long-running task, improving its own work as it goes. Anthropic argues that Fable 5 delivers better results as you spend more compute. As reasoning effort increases, accuracy rises with it. According to their frontier code benchmarks, Fable 5 outperforms both Claude Opus 4.8 and GPT 5.5 across every cost tier, leading from low effort all the way to maximum reasoning. The model overview table is the fastest way to compare context windows, output limits, and identifiers at a glance. Bookmark this if you are integrating the API. If you are estimating costs, build your model around the output side. A response that generates 100,000 tokens costs $5 in output alone. For long-form generation tasks, the bill is dominated by what comes back, not what you sent. Fable 5 is available through the Direct API, Amazon Bedrock, Google Vertex, and Microsoft Foundry. Cloud availability sometimes lags the Direct API release by a few days, so check platform documentation if timing matters for your deployment. Cloud providers wrap the same underlying model with their own deployment infrastructure. The model behavior is identical. Authentication, quotas, and regional availability vary by platform, so check the platform-specific docs before you go to production. Step back from the specs for a moment. The bigger story here is the release strategy itself. Earlier model families introduced capability tiers, faster versus smarter. This is something different. Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are the first explicit trust tiers. Same capability, different access based on verified intent rather than price. Fable 5 is genuinely capable but operates with classifiers active. Mythos 5 removes restrictions in high-risk domains, which is precisely why it requires separate vetting. The capability difference is real, and the access difference is intentional. Anthropic put the core tension plainly. Frontier capability is no longer the bottleneck. Access policy is. Third-party coverage has been reading this as more than an Anthropic story. The dual-track model is being discussed as a potential template for how other labs might handle increasingly powerful systems. For developers, this is the practical headline. Fable 5 is built for multi-step coding work. Reading code, planning changes, using tools, running tests, and completing engineering tasks with more autonomy. That is where the model looks most useful for real production workflows. The question is not whether AI systems will keep getting more powerful. They will. The real question is whether the frameworks for deciding who accesses that power will keep up with the capability. Claude Fable 5 is available now through the Direct API and major cloud providers. Mythos 5 is available for qualified organizations through Project Glasswing. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.